What's going on, everybody? And in this video, what we're talking about is how to get started podcasting. Now, if you haven't done so already, my episode 44 on my podcast, I talked about how to start. And I essentially kind of give a very small overview or bite-sized view of what it takes to start podcasting and typically the things that you should think about. And in this video, I'm going to go over a little bit more in depth about what you should be looking at and how that process essentially plays out in hopes to help you guys get started. Because ultimately, a lot of times I get this question on how do I get started? You may be motivated to get started, but you don't know where to look. So I want to start providing more tutorials like this. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, remember to subscribe. Also hit the like button before we get started. So the first thing I want to actually talk about is something that I did talk about in the podcast, and that is to understand the niche that you want to get into. Now, why is this important? This is important because you need to know what avenue you want to go in. And if you don't have a particular passion in essentially one of these three categories, and those being wealth, health, or relationships, if it is not in one of those three, those are particularly the ones that those particular ones are the ones that have the most revenue base. Now, being said, finding something in those are very generalized. You can go very deep. Health, right? There's many different things you can do about in health, whether you want to do fitness. Fitness is kind of oversaturated, so you do have to niche down even more. Maybe you want to do fitness for divorced men in their 40s, right? Maybe that's something you want to do. You want to get very specific. You want to get very niche. Or perhaps you want to do something in wealth. Maybe you want to talk about the stock market. Maybe you want to talk about dividends specifically in the stock market. These are the kinds of things that you want to niche down and something you really want to think about and something you want to research and see if it's something you really do enjoy, especially if you're trying to create any kind of side business or anything like that. It's extremely important to niche down. Now, if you look at like Discover Ignite for myself, it isn't that niche, and that's why I haven't grown that fast over time. But I do have other channels. I have a stock market channel specifically that does analysis on the stock market, and that channel gets more views, and I've gotten more subscribers on that particular channel over a shorter duration of time because it is a much more niche than this channel. So being said, those are the kind of things that you want to aim for before starting a podcast. You want to kind of know what exactly it is. Maybe you want to talk about particular movies, maybe, or something specific like that, but you want to niche it down to the point that it is going to get you to where you want to gain traction, because a lot of times it is very hard to gain traction in being very saturated. Again, if you are talking about something specific like just self-help in general, it is very saturated. You have to be very niche in what you are talking about. So again, that is the first step you want to hit on, is finding your niche and being as specific as possible. Again, you can start out like this, but ultimately understand you can get to a point to where you get enough followers to where you can kind of branch out a little bit. And this is something you want to do anyway, because you want to kind of test the waters and throw out different stuff and ultimately understand what is going to essentially stick. Now, when you talk about podcasting, there really isn't a lot of analytics as compared to something like YouTube. YouTube gives you a lot more analytics behind the scene. Something else I will do, give more of a tutorial on that as well. But ultimately understand that podcasting doesn't give you those kind of analytics that you get for YouTube. So it's definitely getting feedback from those people that view your videos, view your content essentially on podcasting, and trying to see what people like, what people enjoy, and sticking with that and try to see how much more you can expand upon that. And so the next thing I have for you guys is actually a mic, because to start anything, you're going to need some kind of mic. And for myself, you don't have to spend a lot of money. I actually have one. Let me actually pop this up real quick. And anything I do talk about here, I do have this. If you go to Discover Ignite /resources, I have a lot of the stuff I talk about in this particular video. I have the mic here. I have a Yeti microphone. It's not saying you need that. I particularly got that. And I've also been told, because I'm still new in the space. And so trying to figure everything out, you have to get started is ultimately what matters. And then when you get started, then you start figuring out what works and what doesn't. The USB mic, I've heard, isn't the greatest, right? But we aren't trying to be professionals here. We're just trying to get started. It's up to you to follow up, follow through. But the Yeti is one I picked because it was a better caliber mic from what I have heard. And so I picked it, and then later on realized that the USB wasn't the best mic to have. So again, something you want to look at. This is where I got started. I just wanted to get started. So that is what I have there. And also, there are other mics that aren't as expensive. There are $90 mics and stuff like that I've seen that have good high quality. So it's something you do want to research again. But if you're starting a podcast, you just want a mic. You don't need something that is expensive. You don't want to start out with professional grade stuff because you don't know if it's going to stick. You just want something to get started. And that's ultimately what you want to do, is find a mic that is going to help you do just that, right? So the next one I want you to think about is to think about, are you going to do video with your podcasting like I do? Like I record all my podcasts through here, and then essentially I'll remove that audio, and then I'll essentially edit the audio from that point, and then just distribute it. Or you can just record your voice. You don't have to do any kind of video, right? You want to try to make it as simple as possible. And especially when you're starting out, it's probably best to just do the audio as opposed to the video. I like to do this because of the fact that it gives me like a two birds and one stone, ultimately, right? It gives me video content and also allows me to distribute that video content to all different kinds of other social platforms, but also ultimately understand too that what it does for myself is it allows me to do that because I have so many different social platforms. But if you just want to do the audio, it's better if you don't want to be on camera, right? You don't have to do that. You can start by using essentially just the audio version of it, right? And now any laptop should have some kind of voice recording. All you have to do is type in essentially in your search bar, voice record, and then record from there. And then it's essentially just taking that audio into something like Audacity or something, which is a free tool that allows you to start allowing you to edit the audio quality to start producing your podcast. So again, something you need to think about: are you going to do video with your podcasting, or you're just going to do the audio side of the house? And again, if you're just going to do the audio side of the house, just look in your search bar on your laptop or desktop and look for voice recording, and then record your voice, right? It's good to also, when you're doing this, to have some sort of a script, know what you're going to talk about specifically, and set it up beforehand. Especially it depends what it is. If you're extremely knowledge based about it, or something you are learning, you definitely want to script it out. If it's, again, something that is fairly new to you, or even having just basic essentials of points you want to hit upon, does help a lot. So when you start going into this and you start thinking about, well, I'm going to do the video or just the audio, and scripting, and where you should go from that point, and script out your videos or your podcast, and know what points you want to hit on, because that is ultimately important. It keeps you on track. It's not saying you have to write everything out. I do not do that. I hit on points just to kind of keep my mindset on where I want to go with that script. Now, the next thing I have is Audacity. This is a free tool you can download, and this helps you get started, right? You ultimately want to remove as many barriers to entry as possible just so you can get started, because a lot of times you'll procrastinate if you don't get started. Audacity, again, free tool. It's something I've been using to help me edit my videos. It helps you ultimately, it also helps you record. So also, if you don't have any kind of recording device, you can come in Audacity, record it straight in here, edit it, and then essentially get it out the gate. But ultimately, understand, I'm not going to get into the weeds essentially on Audacity. It's, again, another video I can do. But ultimately, you can see here, you can record your podcast here. And again, if you recorded it from some other device, some other software. So if you record it on some other device on your laptop, you can import it. Which is something I typically do. I just open my audio files. These are all Discover Ignite. So I just open it, Just you can kind of see a visual of how it's loaded and everything. And then from this point, I do my editing from that point. Again, I won't get into the details about it, but again, you can record it straight to here and then make audio adjustments, which is again something I will get more into if you guys want me to do an Audacity specific tutorial. Just let me know, leave a comment down below. But in the audio adjustments, there's a couple small things you can do, especially with sizing and everything, because you got to understand once you start loading it to something like Anchor, which is something else I want to talk about here. But once you start loading it to there, right, we want people to be able to download your podcast. And so there's a lot of little intricacies that you need to be aware of when you are editing your audio. And this is probably the stickiest point to the whole process. But you have to ultimately understand that once you get past this point, once you do it enough, it becomes really easy. So that first initial time might be hard to try to understand what's going on. It might take a couple tries, but understand that once you get through this part, it is actually a lot simpler than you think. And then you can start actually distributing your new podcast. So obviously to this point, you've had your niche discovered, you've had everything done, you've recorded your voice, you've done the editing. And now what you want to do is actually upload it. To be able to upload it, there's a lot of, again, small intricacies, which I can get into. I'm just trying to give you the grand process of everything, because just the inside in itself will kind of show you what you're dealing with. And then after the whole editing process, you're going to upload it and distribute it. And one of the best tools I've actually found was Anchor. And why it's so helpful is the fact that this particular program allows you to distribute it to a bunch of other different podcasts, your Google Podcasts, your Apple Podcasts. There's a bunch of other different ones you have to do. All you have to do is upload it to here. You're going to do a new episode, upload it. You can actually record everything in here, to be honest, which is something I haven't done because I like to edit everything myself. I don't really like the editing that is done within here. But being said, I like to edit everything in Audacity, then upload it here. And then that's going to allow you to edit everything, edit all your titles, your description, and everything within your podcast. And something else you want to remember, you do want to do some kind of cover art for your podcast before you upload it. So that is another step that I did not mention in the beginning, but you do want to have some kind of art, some kind of graphic on the front of your podcast, because you'll have to upload it on here onto Anchor. So being said, once you get the podcast all edited, you upload it here, you can have your cover art. So that's two things. And then from this point, you're just going to save it, and you can schedule out when you want it to occur. And like for myself, I schedule it every Monday at 6 a.m. So I do all the editing and stuff a couple days before, and then on Monday it is released. The audio version is released. And if you're doing video format, I typically release my video format on the Sunday, and then the audio version of it on a Monday morning. So being said, everything is distributed, everything is good, everything is grand, right? There's a lot of different things in between there, little things, again, that I can break down throughout this. If you have more questions, again, I'm just trying to give you an overall view process of doing a podcast. Now that is essentially the whole process. I'm trying to keep this video short because when you get into tutorials, you can get into a lot of stuff. There's a lot of weeds here. I can break down specific things. If you have questions, again, remember to leave a comment down below. Also, remember from this point, when you get to this point, the next biggest thing you need to remember, and one of the most critical things, is you need to be consistent when it comes to podcasting. And the more frequently you can get them out, the better. And the reason for that being is because podcasting is starting to become a little bit more saturated. And this is why I talk about you have to be extremely niche. But not only that, you want to be consistent, and then you want to be able to distribute that out to everybody possible. You want to get it to as many people as possible, not just your friends and family, but you want to let people know. If there's people you come across, if there's events that you're at, let them know you have a podcast, right? And so, or get with groups, like-minded groups, and share your thoughts and ideas and let them know, well, hey, I got a podcast, I'm learning how to do this, or whatever your subject is on. Maybe you're an expert in that subject, and this is what I'm teaching people. whatever the case is, you want consistency and you want to find people that are interested in your podcast. And you have to, again, realize that it is going to be a slow process. This isn't a fast process, but you are building something that is going to last for a very long time. And you want to essentially take advantage of the space, podcasting, and realize that this is essentially your digital landscape, and this is your piece of the pie. And so this is why I'm trying to essentially build this out, these tutorials, the process. You guys can see it, see what needs to be done, and then get you to where you need to go, right? And create a podcast that is something that you can build off of, that you're proud of, that you enjoy doing, that you lose track of time. And that's why I want to start creating more tutorials like this to help you get you along your way to those things, to those goals that you ultimately want. So remember, if you have made it this far, to hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this. And if you have any questions at all, you can always email me, you can always DM me, or you can just leave a comment down below. But ultimately, understand, we are trying to get you to podcasting, at least in this video, and get you started. And that's ultimately what it is. I'm trying to make it the easy road to understand the process, that the process really isn't that bad. Yes, there's some small little things you need to know, but I am here to help guide you to where you need to go. So until next time, I'll see you guys later.